asking, do you ever feel the same? Well, maybe we could change, turn the ship another way.
Hello and welcome to the Liz Experiment YouTube channel. This is the channel where Liz, the Liz in the Liz Experiment, where I share field notes from my journey towards architecting my best life. I am here with my very familiar background of Hoboken, New Jersey at my dear friend's, family members really, apartment. And I'm here this week, basically came back down south from upstate New York to pack up my stuff. And tonight, so in about 12 hours, I'll be flying to England for 3 weeks. So I guess I'm here preparing for my next European adventure. So let's get into kind of the format of the Liz Experiment episodes. I talk about where I am and what I'm doing there, what I learned the past week, and what I worked on this week. In all of this in hopes that you either give me advice on what I did right or wrong, or I don't know, maybe it inspires you to share some of the ways that you've been working on yourself and some of the things you've learned in your life. So, what did I learn this week? The first thing I learned this week was that the universe has my back. If you have been watching the channel for a while, you'll recall back in January, it's August 1st. So in January, there was an issue with my computer. There was another issue with my computer this week, but it got fixed, and I'll talk more about that in the what I worked on section of the video. So that was one thing I learned this week. The second thing I learned this week was that also, if you've been watching the channel for a while or following the blog that I have, you'll remember that back in April, my dear friend Kofi passed away unexpectedly. And what I learned this week was, or I guess remembered this week, was that I carry him with me every time I'm anywhere, but especially when I'm here in New York. And the last thing that I heard a lot of shit this week. I was in New York, people. The last thing I learned this week was that, I don't know what to expect from my adventure coming up in England. I don't know what the local countryside is and what it's like, who I'm going to meet, what I'm going to be doing there. But that's okay. I knew that part, but not knowing what to expect feels very weird. So I'll talk a little bit more about that as we move into the what I worked on this week section. So, I should get some fancy, in between, what I worked on. But the production quality of these videos, they leave you wanting. Let's just put it there. Leave it there. So, okay, the first thing I worked on this week in regards to the universe having my back was letting go. I talk about this a lot on the channel. I highly encourage everybody who's watching to think about how you could do this in your own life, or if you are doing it, to share with us how you're doing it. In this case, I have a MacBook Pro. I'm lucky enough to be able to do that. It's also my office, so I kind of have to have a really good computer, or really, powerful computer. And the keyboard on the MacBook that I've had has been shitty for a long time. And I've been putting up with it, and finally my space bar stopped working, and I just couldn't put up with it anymore. So I went into the Mac store. Luckily, I'm here in New York. I could just go to the Genius Bar, and I did. And he took one look at it. He's like, yeah, these keyboards are crappy. Mac or Apple has been replacing them for free. We're just going to replace this for free. And I'm like, okay. But he said, but you're going to need to leave us your computer for 24 to 48 hours. Now, this was on Tuesday. The old Liz would have gone through holy shit, 24 to 48 hours. I fly out on Thursday night. What am I going to do? Let me make sure I have all my ducks in a row. But I didn't do that. I just said, hey, Ernie. Ernie was the genius at the Genius Bar. I said, hey, Ernie, I fly out Thursday night. Chances I'm going to get this back before then. He's like, you'll be fine. I'm like, all right, cool. And I let go, and I just went with it. Now, I'm lucky. I'm so lucky. I'm so privileged in the sense of, I have friends who had an extra computer I could use for a day. They were fixing it for free. It was like a $500 part. They fixed it for free. All of these things lined up for me as I let go. But I think letting go was a huge part of it. And so that's what, I guess, the lesson. That's what I was working on, was just being. But I did want to talk about the privilege part of that for a second, because I recognize, being in America, especially in mid to higher income areas of the country, growing up in a white family, like straight up, race is a big deal in America right now, right? And it would be wrong of me not to acknowledge that in my book. But all of those factors combined, not just my race, but all of that combined, I am in a very good place now. I work very hard for what I have, of course, but I had a pretty damn good starting block to jump off of, right? So this is a question for you guys in the audience, and I'm curious what you think about it. I think my personal belief up to this point is that when these types of situations happen, meaning like I have the financial freedom to let go and say, you know what, if my computer doesn't come back in time for me to go to England, I'll figure it out. Or if I need to buy a new computer, I'll figure it out. Like, I have that financial backing now. I'm not super rich, but I have saved that. I've had that ability, I've had that space. And all of the privileges I have, and all of the I don't know what the other word is, but there's another word for it. Anyway, the point is, I feel like I have to use those to the max to improve my life in the best ways possible. And I don't mean like buying stuff and living in the best places and going to the best clubs or whatever. I mean like giving myself as much freedom as possible so that I can live a good life and help others do the same, which is what I'm trying to do with the channel. I think that is a way for me to best apply that privilege as opposed to ignore it. But I'm curious what you guys think about it, because I floated that idea by a friend this week and she didn't really feel good about it, I think. And maybe she did, but anyway, I'm curious what your take is on privilege and all of those things. The second thing I worked on this week was I carry Kofi with me. So when I come back to the city, I sense him all around me. And that's super hard, right? I see places we've been. I see places we used to hang out. We used to work together so closely, and I talk to him every day and all the stuff. And so this week I was having drinks or coffee with different colleagues who knew about our working relationship for years and hadn't seen me in a long time. And they were asking about him. And I had to just basically say he passed away. And then I had to sit as they went through and process that. And that was tricky, both because, as I'm sure you guys would be late, or you folks would be in this moment, you'd be kind of like, am I saying this right? Am I being too brash? Am I being sensitive enough? There's no right way to deliver that message, right? So I guess that goes back with point one of just letting go and just going with it and just honoring my dear friend as much as possible. But definitely worked on crafting that message, as I had to deliver it a few times this week, which was tricky. And the last thing I'm working on, as I mentioned, was I don't know what to expect from England. And that feels super weird. I always kind of think of myself as a systems thinker, meaning like I see the whole part of everything and not exact, but I kind of can infer what's going to happen and how it's going to be or what to expect, at least on some level. But although I've become an expert at the travel part of it, like I know what to expect at JFK tonight when I go there. I know what the red eye is going to be like. I know those things. But when I get off the plane in Gatwick and this strange woman whom I've only talked to over the internet picks me up, I don't know what to expect. So that feels kind of freeing and odd. I'm not scared. I have that privilege. I'm not scared. I'm just kind of like not sure what's going to happen, and that's a new feeling to me. And this was something I discussed with my brother Chloe, my best friend, brother, whatever his term is, where he was like, yeah, that makes sense. Like the world for you is shrinking, so you're aware of what you're going to be kind of going through with the travel, but you're not quite sure what this place is. So I look forward to figuring that out more. But this week I was just kind of working on being okay with that feeling. So, gosh, that's it for this week. Next week, I'll be coming to you from Billingshurst, West Sussex. I hopefully will have found a decent cup of coffee by then. Maybe England has upped its coffee game since last I'd been there. Who knows? I'm sure I'll find tea drinkers. But, I'm not one of those. What else? If you liked this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you have anything to comment on or share or rant about, whatever, please leave it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you guys about anything I'm talking about how you're creating or architecting your best life, or what you would like to know from me, what other things I could talk about or help with to help you architect your best life. If you'd like to receive these videos every week, be sure to subscribe below. And until next week, thanks for watching.
Video.